Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your lunch and your break, and welcome to the first group of breakout sessions that we have. My name is Steve Gill. I'm the Veteran Services Administrator with your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. I am a U.S. Army veteran, and I've been with WDVA for 20 years now. Despite this youthful appearance, I'm one of the old timers these days. So welcome to the first group of breakout sessions. And today we have an update from the VA Regional Office, the Veterans Benefits Administration. I'd like to welcome John Lombardo, the Assistant Director, one of the Assistant Directors at the VA Regional Office. This topic is going to be an update on the PACT Act, but also other topics that the Veterans Benefits Administration, VARO, has. So as we work through the session today, we will ask that the speaker and the audience, when you're talking, when you're asking questions, that we use the mic. The reason why is we have a direct feed into the audio video, and we're recording this, so the mic will pick up that direct feed and we'll have nice clean audio. And then throughout the course, we have a 90-minute session, so I'll turn it over to John, and thank you for being here, John.
Well, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. My name is John Lombardo. I'm the Assistant Director for the Seattle VA Regional Office. Just a little bit about me. Started my career in Seattle. I was an Army infantryman. I got out of the military, did 2 deployments to Iraq. Then I got out, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I was talking to a bunch of my buddies in my platoon, and they said, I know what you're going to do. You're probably going to go back to doing construction like you did in high school. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And then I got out and I was like, you know what? There's like all these benefits that I can get that I didn't know about. Like I could get like a monthly compensation benefit. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't even know that was a thing when I joined. There was a VA home loan I could get. There was all these educational benefits I could get. GI Bill, like I paid the kicker for the GI Bill. And then I got out and I went to Pierce Community College for a couple of semesters because I didn't have enough credits to get into the big universities. So I got some credits locally, and then I started reaching out to colleges. So obviously being from I'm originally from Olympia, Washington, so I thought, well, let me just stay on this side of the mountains. So I'll apply to like UW and stuff like that. Well, UW wasn't helpful. So then I reached out to the best college, which should have been my first choice anyway. And I reached out to WSU. And it was a lady in the admin office that said, oh, you know, my husband's a veteran. Like, he served in the Navy. Oh, you're a veteran? Let me help you out. And she got me into that college. So I had way less credits. She made me get into my AKO account and pull all my credits from the military. And that's how I got into WSU, so I'm super thankful to her. But that's veterans helping veterans, or veteran spouses helping veterans, so I really appreciate that. So then I got out of college, and I did the GI Bill during the year because I made more money. And then I did VRE during the summer semester because it paid for the entire semester. So a lot of folks aren't familiar, but the state universities pay 50% of your tuition, but they don't pay 50% of your tuition during the summer. So I figured out the math, and I made more money doing GI Bill, and then did VRE during the summer there. So I graduated in 3 years, and part of the VRE program is, getting a job. It's an employment benefit. So they got me my first job in VA. And I was a business major, so I thought, oh, I'll just, I'm gonna get my foot wet, start getting used to this, corporate, federal government stuff, and then I'll leave, and then I'll go work for Amazon where I could make way more money, right? And that's what I thought. But here I am, 15 years later, worked my way up. So before becoming assistant director, I used to run the DRAS in Seattle, so the Disability Rating Activity Site, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But I ran the DRAS for a while, and before that I used to work for the Continental District. We have 5 districts in VBA, so I worked with our district director there. And I've been to, almost every regional office out there. I've done site visits to almost every regional office in Continental and Pacific District. And then most recently, I was tapped on the shoulder to go to Hawaii for a detail as the director in Hawaii. So I did that for about 8 months while I became assistant director. Kind of weird timing. I became assistant director, was assistant director for about 3 months, and then they were like, "Hey, we need you to go to Hawaii." So I did that, and that was a unique experience, but a fun experience nonetheless. So that's a little bit about me. I think I've used every benefit possible in the VA, like personally. I've done that at GI Bill, VRE, home loans, insurance. I have all of that. All of that is something that I've experienced. And a lot of my buddies that are getting out of the service right now, I'm able to kind of, push them to the right people to get them help. And I'll tell you right now, I always tell them to go to their VSO. No matter what, that's what I say. Go to your VSO, go to your VSO, go to your VSO. They're the ones that are going to help you through this process. So I really appreciate what everyone in this room does. If you're a VSO or you're involved in veterans, we all have the same goal in mind, and that's to help fellow veterans. I've dedicated my life to it. And I think it's important for people in VBA to have, it's important for anybody in VBA, but for me personally, it's important to have a veteran at the seat of the table. And that's what I always wanted. A veteran at the seat of the table, because I know exactly how it is. My driver in the military committed suicide. 6 months ago, my buddy Hernandez called me and said, "I left. I put you down as my emergency contact," and I didn't hear from him for a week. So this stuff still impacts me to this day, and I do whatever I can to help veterans. So I really appreciate what you guys do, so thank you for that. I'm honored to present on PACT Act and then some other regional office updates, and then happy to answer any questions. I might not have all the answers, but I will do my best. And then if I don't know your question or your answer to your question, I will make sure to get back with you personally there. So with that, I'll start my presentation here. So just a quick agenda. We're going to go. PACT Act is the majority of this. Talk a little bit about VERA, and then I'll give some division updates for us in Seattle. So what is PACT? Let me start with, who doesn't know what the PACT Act is? If I see one hand, then we're doing a bad job. But I'm glad. Oh, you got one. That tells me we need to do a better job. I think David, the director from WDBA, mentioned that he did a football. He's a ref, and there was 8 veterans there that didn't know what PACT Act was. So it tells me that we got to do a better job. And I think it's in the numbers as well. We have quite a bit of veterans here, and I think only 20,000 veterans from Washington State have submitted PACT Act claims. So not a lot when you look at the overall percentage, but we need to do a better job of getting out there. Probably shouldn't file a claim for benefits, and will more than likely be granted. And it's all about toxic exposure. I think I was talking to you, Chris, before, and it was like, well, what is toxic exposure? Like, a lot of veterans don't know. And I told Chris, I said, well, if you served in Iraq and you were on a FOB, yeah, I can guarantee you that you've probably been exposed to some sort of toxic exposure. I don't think there was a FOB that I went to where we didn't have a burn pit the size of football fields. Frankly, as an infantryman, I was probably throwing batteries in it. Like, that's just what you did. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. If you had anything in your Humvee and you were going on a patrol and your TC, your truck commander said, "Hey, let's get rid of all this trash," that's where the burn pit was. You just walked over there, you chunked it in the thing, and it included everything. Well, that's what this is. It's air pollutants, burn pits, oil well fires, sulfur fires, sand, dust, particles, Agent Orange herbicides, burn pits, water contamination, pesticides, depleted uranium, and the list goes on and on. When I was in Iraq, I was stationed in Tikrit. Tikrit is, ultimately where they got Saddam, but it was just a little bit north of Tikrit, and it was called Beji. And I was right on the Tigris River, and they had these we were guarding this big bridge because the insurgents kept blowing up the pipeline. So we had to guard the bridge, and every morning we had to cross the river to the other side. And we had one of those World War II boats that like dropped down. Like that's what we had. So every morning we would cross this river. And part of that process of putting a oil pipeline underground, they wanted to lay it underground so the insurgency wouldn't blow it up, was to run radiation through the pipes to see if they would leak. And every day my platoon and I were just, we were skipping over, just like, what's this? We don't even know. Like, I was 20, I think. It was just, doing little jumps off of it and whatever. So my point is all of that stuff is toxic exposure. So if you have veterans out there that have been exposed to this stuff, then they need to apply for benefits. So just eligibility, Gulf War era, post 9/11 eligibility. So here are the countries. I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with these. This is includes the airspace above any of these locations. So on or after August 2nd, 1990, and then on or after September 11, 2001 for Gulf War and post 9/11 eligibility. But again, if you're in here, then that's, you should apply for a claim. And that, if you've been to any of these countries, you should probably apply for a claim. And then also part of the PACT Act was new radiation presumptive location. So the cleanup there was another cleanup in Spain, and then the air base in Greenland through those dates. So if you have a veteran that was stationed at any of these locations during those dates, they've been exposed, so they should file for a claim. And then here's the long list of conditions presumed to be service connection. Yeah, I think the conversation a lot of the times goes back to what does it mean to be presumed service connection? So I'll try to break that down for you in the most infantry layman terms that I possibly can. And that is, if I file for a claim for, a heart condition, and I file for that claim, I have to prove that that heart condition was a result of military service. So say I, was doing a PT test and, I had a heart attack. That led to a heart condition. I could file the claim and say, look, I had a heart condition in the military and it was due to military service. And that would be the service connection link there. Well, if it's presumed to be service connected, all you have to have is a diagnosis. You don't have to prove that it resulted from service over there. So for a veteran that was exposed to burn pits in Iraq and developed one of these presumptive conditions, let's say it was brain cancer, or let's say it was bronchitis, you don't have to make that connection. We make that connection for you. The connection is already there. So if you have any veteran that has these conditions, then they should file for a claim. They should file for a claim right now. There's quite a lot of them here, and we'll get to something that's new now that's also part of the PACT Act, but asthma, huge, right? Lymphoma, all the cancers, sinusitis. There's the list goes on, and we can give you guys some flyers, or I can send it out after the fact with all the conditions that are listed there. So again, filing for a claim, I'm sure you guys know this, but new claim and then a supplemental claim. So if a veteran had filed for a claim for one of those presumptives, been denied, they need to submit a supplemental claim, and we'll go back and take a look at that. And then they can also just file a new claim. And then survivors as well. So there's 909,000 claims, PACT Act claims that were submitted since August 10th. Their survivors it's 16,000. 16,000 of those have come from survivors. We've completed almost 500,000 of those claims. 9,000 of those are survivors that we've completed. And right now we have just under 500,000 pending PACT Act related claims. But that's not enough, because when I started this conversation, I said there was 3 million that were impacted, and it's our job to find those 3 million and get them to apply for benefits. And there's the big stigma out there is, you know, if I file for a claim, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. If I file for a claim, you're gonna reduce me. 97% of the claims out there that get filed are not reductions. So tell them to please submit the claim. Right? I know folks are very nervous about that. Yeah, just what I said earlier, when or how you should file the claim. If you've been previously denied, encouraged to file a supplemental claim that we'll take a look at into the new PACT Act law. And then please tell veterans this too: avoid the scams. It's just like the Camp Lejeune water thing made headline news, and scams were coming out of the yin yang for that. So make sure it's the same thing. Any type of big VA law change or regulation that they change, the fraudsters are out there and they're going to try to get those benefits. So please, please, please be aware of that. And that's why you guys are so important, because you guys know what what's real and what's not. So avoid the PACT Act scams there. And then I also want to bring your attention to the PACT Act dashboard. So are you guys familiar with the PACT Act dashboard? All right, so there's a PACT Act dashboard that's a published national dashboard. It gets published every Friday, and it has the most up-to-date information on claims submitted. It's got VHA data in there on the number of toxic screenings that they've done. It breaks it down by state. So out of all the states, who's filing the most claims from all these states? What's the grant rate? Right? I think in Washington State we're at an 87% grant rate for PACT Act claims. 87% grant rate, which is huge. That's crazy. That's extremely good. So locally or nationally rather, we've 2 months ago when we started doing these briefings, we were at $1 billion in benefits that veterans earn that we've paid out. We're close to $4 billion now. So $4 billion in benefits that we've paid out. So my computer's up here, but if you don't get a chance, maybe after this, you can come take a look at it if you're interested. I have the PACT Act dashboard, full transparency. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of information. Every week when they highlight it, you'll see these things at the bottom, and there are a bunch of highlights. So between August 2nd to the 6th, during the Women's World Cup games, the department launched a women veteran-focused PACT Act public service announcement on national and regional spots ranging from Fox Sports and beyond. In my time, I don't think I've ever seen that. That's how badly we want this word to get out there. So they got a bunch of different stuff on events that might be in your area as well. So if you scroll down, you'll see that there'll be events in a bunch of different states, and then sometimes we'll make it on there if we have a local event as well. So what have we done since the beginning of this year? Because we started processing PACT Act at the beginning of this year. We've done 184 PACT Act events, 580 hours of veteran interactions. We did 22 claims clinics that I think were probably the best thing that we could have ever done. We went to CBOX all around Western Washington and had claims clinics where we had VSRs and RVSRs there that volunteered to talk to veterans and take claims, and then to educate folks on what PACT Act is. And that has been so fruitful for us. We still work with the medical center to this day, and they keep saying, hey, when are you guys coming back? We need you guys here. And we keep doing them, and we'll continue to do them throughout the year. But that process has been really successful for us, because like myself, I get served at VA, I get VHA healthcare. Well, where are all the veterans at? They're at the CBOX. They're at, in Seattle. So we figured that's where we needed to be to get the information out for PACT Act. And we've done that. We've taken over 350 PACT Act claims, and we've done them all over the place. We're part of the JBAC as well, so our JBAC guy was in McCall Nation out there in Nia Bay. We were there for an overnight trip. I just went to the Yakima Nation a couple weeks ago and took some claims out there. And I think we only had about 20 veterans show up. So we need to get the word out better, and we need veterans to show up. Without them coming, we can't get the claims. So we really need to get folks there. But that's where we are locally. I wanted to bring this up because it's part of the PACT Act. On June 25th, VA announced its plan to conduct scientific review to determine whether there's an association between three conditions: the leukemias and then the melanoma that are outside of the head and neck. Those three conditions are in the PACT Act for presumptive conditions, but it's only in the head and neck. So this is outside of the head and neck, and they're doing scientific research on that for possible presumptive, possibly adding these to the presumptive conditions. I guess the most interesting thing about this is typically we can't just do that, but part of the PACT Act said you guys at VA can decide what you want to research. So these are the first of the lists that we're researching to figure out if there's a scientific connection, so we can do the same thing that we've done before with all the PACT Act presumptive conditions. So that's great. There's a Federal Register process here, and it's 30 days where folks will have comments and everything else. And I think that ends the 28th of August, if I'm not mistaken. So, or the 25th. Sorry, the 25th of August is when that ends. So tomorrow. So if you haven't checked that out, I can give you guys the link. But yeah, that's huge, I think, for veterans as well. Typically, we'd have to wait for someone to tell us to research these things, and now we do it ourselves based on PACT. If you're reaching out to us, we use a system called Vera. So all of the systems we use now are, I always tell people, there's veterans as well. Typically, we'd have to wait for someone to tell us to research these things, and now we do it ourselves based on PACT. If you're reaching out to us, we use a system called Vera. So all of the systems we use now are, I always tell people, there's some silver linings when it comes to COVID. I'd say in 2018, there wasn't a way that you could even do a virtual appointment. You had to come to the Seattle Regional Office downtown or at JBLM to talk to someone. You could call the phone, you could call the call center. But we never had this opportunity. And with COVID, it really forced us to get better. It forced us to see veterans where they want to be seen and how they want to be seen. What we're finding is there's a lot of the younger generation that's out there that goes, I don't want to drive all the way to downtown Seattle. I much prefer a video conference call with the same person that you're going to talk to at the front desk. So we use a system called Vera. You can get on our website if you're looking for it. Click on that thing. There's a list of appointments that you can just pick from. So pick an appointment. We'll set it all up, and we'll call and do a video call. That's how we do it now. And it's, again, 2 or 3 years ago, this process didn't even exist. So, very veteran centric, and we'll talk to a veteran any which way we can, whether it's person, telephone, video conference. We'll do whatever they want to do, and we even do that for VRE. Historically speaking, VRE counselors said, "Oh, I got to be in the office to meet veterans face to face." Well, now they said I can do a lot of these things online. I can talk to them via video conference, and a lot of veterans are taking them up on that. But I will caveat: if a veteran wants to be seen face to face by anybody, we'll be there. We'll be there, ready to serve. All right, so here in Seattle, we are one of the largest regional offices in the country, and in my opinion, the best regional office in the country. We constantly produce more than what is expected of us, and that's just the standard. We go off of the 3 E's: engagement with our employees, empowerment for our workforce, excellence, and our service to veterans. Through outcomes, that's what we're all about. We're all about serving veterans and getting outcomes. We're hitting outstanding level targets every year. And even for VRNE, who our staffing has been down about 25%, we're still serving vets there, and we're still hitting targets. So we've done a really good job. We have 2 national missions located in CTAC. We got the Disability Rating Activity Site. Does anyone know what the DRAS is? So we have the DRAS, which is part of the IDES program. So all the Army IDES cases come through Seattle. And that's if a soldier from the Army is getting med boarded, then we do a joint process until they're until they're ETS from the military. Usually we provide benefits within 30 days is the thing. And we get them exams while they're still in service. So a lot of coordination with the Army. The Army also uses those exams for their part of it, for like separation pay, medical pay if they're afforded that. So that's one of the national missions we do. We do all of the Army, which is the big dog in the room, and then the Providence Regional Office does the other part of the DRAS, which is the other service branches. So everyone else. And you would think that's a lot, right? You would think. I saw Sir back there. I saw you go, whoa, that seems like a lot. Army demolishes them with folks that are getting med boarded. So we have quite a lot of workload that comes out from the Army there. And our DROC is just DROC is anyone heard of AMA? Appeals Modernization Act. So that's what our DROC does. They do all Appeals Modernization Act claims. There's 3 of them in the country: the DC DROC, the St. Pete DROC, and then Seattle DROC. So I think we have 400 and close to 450 FTE in the Seattle DROC now. A lot of them stationed right there in CTAC. So we do high-level reviews, supplemental claims, and then that 3rd track is still going to the board. Higher-level review is exactly what it is. It's a more experienced, called decision review officers. It's a more experienced RVSR that's re-looking at the claim from front to back to see if a decision, if a change is needed on the claim. And it's pretty successful, actually. I can't remember the percentage that actually get overturned, but it's like I'm pretty sure it's more than that 50% mark. So that's what a higher level review is. And then a supplemental claim is when, hey, I want to do this, but I got more stuff. I got new evidence that I want to submit for this appeal. And then the other option is obviously you can go right back to the board the standard way. This is the CAR, so we're in phase 3 of our CAR pilot. We've done 2,781 special issues under the CAR, 37.3 days to complete. They penned for about 30 days there. Does anyone know what this CAR is? So if you have a veteran that submitted a claim and it's something that we missed that's really easy, say like an effective date, or something like that, like we missed an issue or whatever, right? And it was clear that we missed something, then that's a step in the, I would say, like a quote unquote appeals. It's not really a lane in appeals, but it's another avenue that you can get it to us, and if it's something easy, then we can make the correction right away. That's what the CAR is about. But 2,700 of those. And then we just established our DROC advocacy team this year. Maybe it was last year, but our DROC advocacy team is really a group within our DROC that responds to inquiries. And as you can imagine, in our DROC, a lot of the inquiries are from attorneys that are representing veterans, and they're their attorney fee as well. So we get a lot of those, but the inquiries there's so many inquiries that we get, so we put, internally, we put some standards in place to say, we need to respond to every inquiry within X amount of days, and then give us 30 days to finalize whatever it is. Those are some of the goals that we have. We've done this internally, and it's proven to be pretty successful. But this fiscal year, so this fiscal year, there's been 7,142 inquiries, and we've provided 7,010 completed actions or responses to the stakeholders. So if you think that's quite a bit of email traffic coming through, but we have to control that, and we owe a response back. And then our VRE program, and I will shout out VRE every single chance that I get, but it's, I think, the best program in VA, and it's an employment program. So we'll help you get trained, we'll get you the training where you need to get it, and then we'll help you find employment. And we have employment coordinators that do resume reviews and do applications, right? They do everything to help you get employment. So that's our VRE program. They don't necessarily get a lot of love like the other processing divisions, but in my opinion, the most important, and I'll tell you why. So this fiscal year, 416 positive outcomes, 288 of those outcomes equaled an employment opportunity. And out of those 288 veterans, it's equating to $1.7 million in monthly income. And that's huge. We used to not track this number. This is the number that we track locally. And it's, I was talking to the VRE officer the other day, and I said, I wonder if that's is that high or is that low? I'm curious what other years were, and we just never tracked it. But 1.7 million in monthly earned income just for those 288 veterans that go through the process. So, and based on PACT Act, I think the RO has gone up quite a bit. I think we started this fiscal year at 960 something employees, and now we're just shy of 1,200 employees. And we continue to hire. So we'll get even more next year to help us process DROP claims. But if you're interested, or if folks are interested, we really would like to get folks to join our team. That we have direct hire opportunities and things like that. So if you're interested, please reach out to me, let me know. I can send links and everything else outside. And I think that's about it for I thought I would take a little bit more time. 45 minutes is what I was projecting, but got a little early. So I'll open it up. Does anyone have any questions about PACT or anything else? And I'll do my best.
So we're going to run the mic to make sure we pick up the questions in the audio as well. So just be patient with us. But I'll run the mic around and bring it back to John for the answer.
Yes, I did have one question about the PACT Act. You said something about the dependents. What will you clarify that?
It's just it's survivors. Yeah. So if it's a veteran, obviously you would get more. If you have a dependent and you got awarded, a benefit or whatever, then you would obviously get the dependent pay added on to it. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Feedback for next year. We'll have 2 mics in the room.
Adrian Wall, Spokane County Veteran Service Officer. I think he was talking about survivor benefits as far as DICs. And
Yeah.
you had mentioned that there was, that there's been an uptick based on the PACT Act and how that works.
Gotcha. You're gonna work out. Maybe I can get 2 of them at the same time.
Auto Cruise Worksource, Yakima, Yakima Nation. I want to follow up on the gentleman's. He's on that question that he was asking. I was just wondering if survivor benefits, the veteran's gotta be 100% disability, right, to get that, for a survivor benefits to get that, or not?
No.
Okay.
So it's your question was just PACT Act specific, so survivor benefits for PACT Act. So spouses of military service members are also entitled to PACT Act benefits if the veteran had passed away from a cancer or whatever the case may be. They could be awarded DIC, right? DIC would be awarded for a service member that died from a service-connected disability, and then they would be awarded a payment based on that, which kind of goes into what he was.
I think Otto has a second question
Yeah,
here, and then
just a quick follow-up. I got a veteran, he stage 4, just found out stage 4 cancer, and I think
Talked to him before?
not about that one.
Oh,
That
see,
that was yeah. Well, that one just came up like last week. One of my veterans that I exited, and he's already doing his own thing. One of his buddies, he ended up finding out that he got stage 4 cancer, and then they were able to change his percentage up to 100%. And then that sort of disability, he was asking if there was some type of a lump sum or back pay from that for him.
it depends. So we pay back until whenever the law passed, right? So the law passed last year, August 9th or 10th, like August 10th, 2022. So we'll give them back pay to that date, depending on when they file for a claim. There's other instances that are pretty technical that you could get awarded as well, but yeah, a year back pay if you did it before. I'm not even gonna say it's August 10th because I think there were some issues with the VA website there, so I don't know.
14.
It was the 14th, yeah, it was the next week, like Sunday or Monday, yeah. So.
In relation to the Camden, or Tom Ewan, Okanaka County Veteran Service Office, in relation to the Camden June water, if you're on Facebook or anything, you'll notice there's a website for contaminated water victims. Families are allowed to sue if they have conditions or their military husbands or military wives had conditions that guided them. But what is the VA going to do if these people don't pursue the lawsuit because they're going to lose 40% right off the top to a lawyer? Is the VA going to do anything for families, members that are also affected by the Camden June water?
It's a good question. I knew you were going there. That's why I don't know the answer to that. But
Okay.
yeah, I know from a benefit standpoint, if they get into the lawsuit or not, we're not. There's nothing we're doing with it. We're not negatively impacting a veteran for jumping into the lawsuit. I know that for a fact. The other part of that, though, I'll reach out to you after this.
Yeah.
we have a couple of questions. One thing I did want to mention, so what we looked at in Washington State, according to the federal VA's own estimates, up to 20% of veterans are going to potentially be eligible for the PACT Act. We have over 500,000 veterans in our state, so we have approximately 100,000 plus veterans potentially eligible. A lot of the veterans, those post 9/11, those Gulf War veterans, they may not have those medical conditions today, but they'll develop in the future. And that's that 20%. So while there might only be 20,000 claims filed in the past year, which is pretty amazing, by the way, this is a legacy. For decades to come, as we grow older, these medical conditions are going to develop. So the initial push for that 1 year presumptive period for back pay was important. We're continuing the push to get information out there about the PACT Act, because as these conditions develop in our lifetime, you can still file a claim. And you're still eligible for those presumptive conditions if you have those medical conditions, if you have that qualified service. So I just want to mention that, because even though that 1 year time frame is come and gone, we're still pushing this out there. We're still doing education and training our veteran service officers and our community members. The PACT Act also added some conditions for those Vietnam era veterans and other veterans exposed to herbicides. The big one being hypertension, which is a new one. A lot of Vietnam veterans have hypertension, right? So that's now a presumptive condition. So you have a whole nother generation of veterans under the Agent Orange herbicide exposure, and that we're looking at as well. So I wanted to mention those two things because I think they kind of add to the reason why we're still doing this push, a year after the fact. And I want to get to your question. So we had one or two back here.
Yeah, we talked a lot about PACT Act, and so the list I think most of us are becoming more familiar with, the Middle East and Vietnam and other areas. Are there any other presumptive conditions that we should know about that might be related to shipboard life or anyone in the Navy or other environments with maybe similar toxins, asbestos, things like that, but weren't in those geographic areas?
Yeah. Yeah, I can get you the information after this. I just don't want to lie to you and tell you it's in this area and whatever, but I'll get you some information. Sorry, I'll get you.
Chris Diaz, Skagit County Service Officer. So I get a lot of Vietnam vets come to my office and they go, "What's this burn pit thing?" Because we used to burn stuff all the time, and they're having conditions of like COPD, these other conditions that are over on the Middle East side, stuff. And they're like, well, why are these not presumptive as well? Because we used to burn stuff as well, not just the Agent Orange, not just the asbestos. So is that something that coming down the pipe, or?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say with the PACT Act and our ability to research different things, that could be on the list. I think the three that I mentioned are something that they're doing now, but I know that there's more. There's more to that list. Yeah, that's what's great about the PACT Act is before, I want to say Congress had to tell us which ones to review. Now we're able to do that ourselves. Which is like really impactful.
Right. So I could do a presumptive with the COPD for Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, whatever, but I can't do that for Vietnam era because it's not on the
Presumptive list for that part.
That's why I was trying to see.
Yeah, to where the cross is. I will say that are people familiar with like toxic exposure risk activity? So that really changed the game for us. So back to kind of like what you're saying, toxic exposure risk activity. So if you tell us in VA that you have a disability that's related to a toxic substance, then we're required to go research that. We're required to use, I believe it's called EILER, and that's the historical record of what the military has kept for issues related to toxic exposure that they have the records for. So, an example would be if I'm a vet, right? And let's say I have, whatever, and I say it's because I was exposed to burn pit. Well, that's going to spark something to a VSR that's going to say, what is the toxic exposure risk here? Was this veteran stationed overseas? Where was this veteran at? And then we got to go through the research to see if there was any exposure there. So you could still be granted benefits based on that risk activity there. But if you want, I can get you some more information on that. The black sweatshirt's back here, so.
Stephanie Prest, I retired about a year ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Give her a what month of the year? 20?
My last assignment was at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, really?
Camp Lejeune Water's been everybody's topic.
Yeah.
When's Pearl Harbor going to get added to that list?
So Red Hill.
Exactly. My daughter is 19. How is she going to get covered other than going to a lawsuit level?
Yeah.
How is she going to get covered for the ailments that she's going to have for the rest of her life because of that exposure? And then also, what about Oklahoma? Because we also did our time out there, and there's pictures and there's testimony to multiple times that Okinawa has barrels buried. The place I lived was in one of those spray areas for Agent Orange, but Congress is still denying that Agent Orange ever existed on Okinawa. So when are we gonna start seeing that too? Because my kids are also affected with that.
Again, great question. I wish I knew the answer to that, or I wish I was a member of Congress so I could push that. But yeah, and particularly Red Hill when I was there in Hawaii, Red Hill was a huge. I mean, when I got there, they had just like, I think they might have evacuated everybody that was on Red Hill, like door to door, and then put them in hotels in Waikiki. So yeah, I'm very familiar with it. I don't know though. I don't know what VA is doing right now with Red Hill, but it's something I can research and get back to you for sure. Go way in the back. I'll come to you next.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned that you and what you folks brought to the community, and you do these VBA intake like clinics where people can do their claims, like prompt response. How do we coordinate with you to have you guys come down to our communities?
Yeah, we can chat right after this. We'd love to come out there. If you got veterans that will show up, we will be there. I promise you that. So yeah, you're probably talking to the right person to make it happen. So yeah, I'll be sure. What county are you in?
Oh, the entire state.
Oh,
We'll talk later.
yeah. You know what? Here's what I'll do. Just tell me where we need to be, and if there's a lot of veterans that are showing up, we will be there. I guarantee you. And we'll be there all dang day. All day. We were in Yakima. How long were we in Yakima for?
All day.
All day. And Otto was calling people on his phone, and we were taking phone calls from veterans. Oh, you can't make it in here? That's fine. Give us your phone, Otto, and we'll talk to them, and we'll do an intent to file
Yeah, both.
right now.
Thank you. Having friends and family who've been affected by some of these presumptive conditions, what's being done proactively to reduce the risk on the flip side? What are we doing to reduce exposure right now for current veterans?
It's a very loaded question.
I was just thinking that exact same thing.
I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I think that, part of it, I don't know if it's a question that I can answer, to be honest, because I think there's a lot of different departments and, from the military to us here that are impacted there. So it's hard to.
Is there anything though on the radar that is getting more proactive to prevent these outcomes?
I think so, to be honest. I think so. I'll tell you what I think it is, and I think it's just awareness. That's probably what it is, in my opinion. But I'll tell you right now, remember last year we got all the smoke in there? I mean, we've got smoke in there now. This is the first time I've ever heard the news say fine particulate matter. Like, isn't that a coincidence? Like, PACT Act was just came out and we were talking about fine particulate matter forever. It was the first time I've even heard the term. And now, like, here they are on King 5 and they're talking about fine particulate matter. So maybe that is what I would say. Sorry, I'm gonna come over here.
When the VA does the ratings and you send in a claim and, they send you the information back that there's nothing in your records that can, codify your statement. Then you do the same claim 10 years later, and yeah, it's right here in your record. What is that all about? Is that the competence of the person that's rating the claim or what? Because it's the same claim.
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer. Maybe, I'm sure part of the times we don't have the paperwork in the file, or if we did, then maybe they missed that part of it. I mean, I think you gotta realize that it's a person that's going through your entire records, and there's, obviously, we're pretty damn good and pretty accurate in Seattle, but, we're not 100% accurate. So that, that's why, this is why I encourage VSO so much, because you guys can look at the file, you know what to claim, you know how the process works. If we miss something, you can tell us, and we'll fix it, right? So you know, in your situation, or if you're talking with someone else, then it's, you know, I wish that process could have been better, but, you know, we do miss things sometimes, and if that's the case, we'll make it right. We'll make it right for sure. Victoria came to see me on Tuesday, so we're best buds.
Well acquainted. To answer your question, Big DOD is making a push to have commands provide memorandums for any exposures. There's a lot of training that they're going through too at commander level to put ops in place. So if you do have active duty that you know, encourage them to get memorandums from their command. They're coming out a lot more. So they're trying to address the problem.
Yeah, I think, you know, in my medical records, I had to put that I was exposed to ionizing radiation from those pipes that I mentioned earlier. But I don't know if like my command put that in any documents. So yeah, I hope that entire process gets better for anyone that's getting out of the military. All right, we got some. Yeah, I'll get you next.
Back to the presumptive, especially in the areas that are not necessarily on the list. I know just from myself stationed in northern Japan, because of where I was assigned, we had to escort contractors to remove asbestos. They're in full hazmat gear. I'm sitting or standing in a uniform, no mask, no gloves, no protective, yeah, exactly. So when is that start to add to the PACT Act when we filed the claim?
I would say file the claim, whether it's in the PACT Act or not. That's what I would say. Because, again, you know, you could have, if you've been exposed to any toxic substance, you should really file for a claim. Whether it's in Australia or wherever, right? You should file. Oh, I'm sorry.
So my name is Nicole Reese, and I'm the Eastern Washington representative for Senator Patty Murray. And I first wanted to make a comment about the proactive, what's happening to be proactive. And I think the PACT Act, the registry itself is something that's proactive, and it hasn't been talked about yet today. But the PACT Act itself has created a registry for people who believe they've been exposed to toxins. And I believe that registry will help VA decide where these new conditions will come up as these veterans age. And in addition, I was kind of curious to know if you guys have seen any sort of patterns of denials. And the reason I say that is because our office has had a lot of veterans come to us. They filed a claim because they had hypertension, and they've been being treated for hypertension for the past however many years, so their hypertension is now being controlled. And so what we're seeing is those claims are being denied at a high rate. And it's like, I'm not understanding why, because they were in those places, they have the presumptive, right? And I feel like unfortunately what's happened to those veterans who have been previously being treated for it is it looks like, oh, well, you don't have it because you're being treated, right? But if they didn't have the medication, they would then be back to having the hypertension.
This is a great question. I will tell you right now that our director is on the forefront of just that thing. Yeah, and has brought that up to comm service, because what it's really promoting is, let me get off my medication for a little bit, just so I can get some benefits, right? And that's not what we want. So yeah, I know my director has been really involved with the undersecretary and the DAC, which is the Director's Advisory Council, to bring those things up. I don't know where we are with that though. Yeah, I know it's been a conversation. I just don't know where we are in the process. But
Well, that's just great for our office to know that it is something you guys are aware of.
Yes, there are conversations going around. Yes, exactly. I
can talk to the answer. Yeah, what questions you've got? Brad Condon, Spokane County Veteran Services. So what's likely happening with your veterans that are coming to you saying they've been denied, we probably have a 0%. That's not a denial. They're still service connected. They're recognizing that, yeah, you were exposed to Agent Orange during that period of time, and that's where you're at. It's not compensable because it's not a high enough rating, that's where the medication's bringing it down. Most people that we put through, they get a 0%, life's good. And you look at more of the hypertension as take care of your family members down the road on the DIC side of it or survivor's match. Simply because most people have some heart-related issue. So a 0 is still good. There's very few that are getting denied because they have the condition. So if they have it and they got denied, that's a quick, easy supplemental. Tell them, hey, you got something wrong. Here's documentation that you had it. You gotta make sure that they have a diagnosis of it. That's the biggest thing. That's kind of the big issue with people with Terra, Agent Orange, PACT Act, burn pits. They have to have a condition. You can't come in and say, hey, I want to do a claim because I was in the Middle East. Cool. You have to have a condition that actually meets that list. Or if you have that condition, we can put you in for those things, get them to try to consider other areas. But you have to have a condition. Again, PACT Act itself is not a condition, it's not a symptom. The doctor has to say you have an issue. And that's the biggest thing that should be coming from PACT Act is don't get seen for everything. Most veterans, when you get seen early on, Vietnam, World War II, World War II people we at least saw horrible conditions. They didn't get seen for anything. Why? Because they toughed it out and pushed on. We're seeing a huge uptick in veterans these days because it's cool. Go get seen for your problems. Take care of these issues. So that's the difference is educating these veterans. Go see a doctor. Get seen. Take care of the problems so that way you can live longer. That's what the VA is trying to do with this. Is there's a whole lot of stuff out there that is affecting every one of us. So just try to get the healthcare you need.
Yeah, and I guess the main point there is you gotta have a diagnosis, which goes back to your question. So on that, what I was talking about earlier, on that PACT Act dashboard that I was talking about, the way down here at the bottom, it'll tell you.
On computer, John?
No, I know, it's not on that one, but the most frequent denial reasons as of 8/12/2023. Number 1, no diagnosis. No diagnosis. Number 2, not incurred or not caused by service and not established by presumption. Those are the 3 denials. But like Brad, I think it was once, like Brad said over there, it's you gotta have a diagnosis, right? If I've been exposed to it, but if I don't have a disability, there's no diagnosis for it, then we're not gonna pay you. Now, if you had a diagnosis for it, and you were stationed there, then we're gonna give it to you, right? But if there's no diagnosis, we're not gonna pay you for nothing, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. So I'm glad you jumped in. We're it's like a team in here. I like that. Again.
Okay, promise the last time.
Well, we got 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes.
So,
2.
so our National Guard being also taken care of as far as like the deployments and the activations that they've had. Like, for instance, both deployments, I went to Iraq, right in between, went to Louisiana, and I know a lot of Guard members didn't go to Iraq. They just went to Louisiana because we were exposed in Louisiana, getting the refrigerators and out of people's homes because they were toxic. That's what leadership told us. So we were donning the mask and the gloves and all that stuff to go and get these refrigerators, and they were bad. On top of finding still dead bodies there, we were also taking that out, and so those Guard members will get taken care of. Also, is that part of that?
No, it's not part of PACT Act, but I think that I think the biggest thing is that if there's any disability associated with anything, you can still get disability benefits, right? If you just don't go through, there's no presumptive process. So if in your situation, if I was doing that and I got some sort of medical claim, right, that's the answer, file a claim and let VA tell you, whether or not that's the case, right? But any type of disability that you have from service or from you think that you think is from service, you should file the claim. Period. So yeah. I think a lot of folks tend to just pack. Well, I was stationed in Australia and I was exposed to this, and this. and now I have this condition, although it might not be a part of the PACT Act, you should still apply for benefits, right? You just go through the regular process and and let Congress and whoever else handle all the presumptive stuff, right? Or in the next bill or the next whatever, right? You should still continue to file. If you did service and you think that that disability happened in service, you should file a claim, period. Whether it's PACT Act or not, file a claim. All right, any other questions? I'm sorry, I keep skipping.
Michael Dill, I am actually with Veterans Health Administration, side of the house.
Brother,
Would the toxic exposure screenings, would that be the complementary side instead of PACT Act, and that's what's going to document the exposures?
Yeah, so when I went into VHA, it was I think it's like 3 questions each. 3 or 4 questions. You've been exposed to toxic exposure, yes, no. Do you want where? And then do you want further information on toxic exposure? Oh no, that's the first question is have you been exposed? 2 is have you filed for benefits? And then 3 is do you want more information on toxic exposure? So when you go see your primary care, that's the toxic exposure screening. But I think what most people don't know is that based on your answers there, VA is going to send you a letter in the mail. That's how you get recognized. And that is, I think, the other part of it. That frankly, I went in there and did the exposure screening, didn't even know they did that, and that's what they do. They send you a letter on the back end that says, hey, you went to your VA primary care doctor or whatever, and on your toxic screening questions you said yes to this. Here's how to file a claim, here's who you need to talk to, and the whole letter is there. So a lot of veterans that are actually, it's on the PACT Act dashboard, but if 1.5, I'm just going to make this up, if 1.5, I have the answer, I think I said it in my brief, but if 1.5 million veterans answered yes to the toxic exposure screening, then 1.5 million of those veterans are getting a letter in the mail. And I think that's probably the piece. But it's a great question, because I think, you're from VHA, and I think a lot of folks would be thinking, I just spoke to someone yesterday, I was playing golf, and they said, where do you work? And I said, VA. And they go, oh, like on Beacon Hill? And I was like, no, completely different sector of it. And I'd say our partnership with you guys in VHA has never been stronger. Never been stronger, yeah. So we work with Dr. Butt and his team all the time to we do claims clinics. We're working directly with clinic managers now that, historically we never did that. We would always go through the appropriate chain, but we work directly with like the clinic manager in Silverdale, in Olympia, to say, hey, I got a lot of veterans coming here and they're asking about you guys. When can we get the next one established? Like when can we get the next claims clinic established? And we've done that. Yeah, Mount Vernon, yeah. Hey, we got an office in Mount Vernon. Yeah, we got a VRD office up there. So, all right, any other questions? I hope this is helpful. I know I probably have a lot of no answers, or I don't know, but at least give it to you real here.
So something I've been doing is getting the vet to take material that I print out for them from my office to this is to civilian doctors, about if there's a link between their condition now and their time in service for a nexus letter or any kind of support documentation. I don't know any other way to help a vet because they're not going through they're not using VH, but that's the only way I've come up with. Maybe there's a VSO in here that knows better. I've only been doing this a little over a year, but it's been helpful, but at the same time, it's been some of these doctors are like, well, I don't have time to research this. Yeah, and then you know what I mean, like, and I go, well, maybe you gotta find another doctor, or what about that kind of stuff? Is there any kind of educational material that's like specific to like? I mean, I could look up PACT Act and print out the PDF and send it to them, but like I have to explain things to, here's the questions I need you to ask your primary care or your specialist.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think either way, I think it probably would be helpful, but either way, VA is gonna order an exam and get something, you know, someone that's trained in making the, or that's willing to make the nexus between the two, right? But it doesn't, I don't think it would hurt the claim. Yeah, especially if it's a positive, like, you know, if a doctor's saying that it's a positive nexus from their opinion. But I think it would probably still go through like a medical opinion process.
Is there any material that I can share
I
specifically?
I don't know. I don't know. You know, when I actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I submitted a claim a couple of years ago, and I was at VHA seeing my primary care doctor, and I was like, hey, can you fill out this DBQ? And she was like, no, I'm still writing DBQs. So, yeah, I don't know if there's documentation, so to speak, that would be helpful, but it's something I could research and see. Yeah. Off the top of my head, though, I don't think there is. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to use it really cool booth. So just so that I understand, and everyone else too for that matter, if I have a veteran in Nia Bay, northwest corner of the state, who has a valid claim or needs a diagnosis, I have to tell that veteran to drive into the Puget Sound VA, make that 4.5 hour drive to catch the ferry, to go across the water for an appointment, wait all day to not get seen, just to go home and repeat tomorrow in order to get that diagnosis. They can't see, say, the clinic there in Port Angeles, which is only an hour and a half drive away.
Yeah, I think I guess the question would be, I guess I would say one, they should probably file a claim first, right? And then, you know, we would more than likely order an opinion or get a medical or whatever, right? But we do contract exams. But I want to say we went to Nia Bay last year, and they did we worked with QTC, who I think is our contractor out there, and we did a mobile vet exam clinic there. So if you're interested in something like that, I think that would be another good thing that we could talk about. We did that last year, and I think we had, I think it was for, do you recall, were you a part of that at all?
Not that one, no.
Yeah, I think we worked with Lombardo, who was back there, but she did, I think we were there for 2 days, and we had appointments booked out for everyone that was out there in Nia Bay because of that, because of the, you know, the distance of where we were ordering exams. So if you do have a bunch of veterans that are in that situation, though, we should reach out and have a discussion.
Victoria Burgess, VSO in Pierce County. Just a caveat off of that, if you have vets that are in a rural area, you can always put in based off of symptomology and request a diagnostic exam along with that. Have them do a personal statement describing their symptoms, their current symptoms, and how it's connected, and put it in. It does work.
All right. Well, I'll just say thank you so much for, you know, at first when I got here, I thought maybe there'd be like 5 people in the audience, and then Jim, right? It's Jim. Jim back there was the first guy in here, and he said, "This is gonna be packed." And then I was like, "Oh, geez, here we go." Right? So no, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I know I owe a couple of you some responses, so if you could just, you know, reach out to me up here. I'll take your name down, your phone number, and I'll research what the issue is and get back to you guys. But really appreciate it. Thank you so much for helping veterans. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for what you do. And if you need anything, please reach out. Thank you.
Had a lot of experience.
Administrative announcements. VetCorps members, there is a sign-up sheet up here. If you're with the VetCorps, make sure you sign up on the sheet so we can get your attendance. John, thank you so much for being here.